Now, I think it's safe to say in 2021, independent watchmaking is maybe at the pinnacle of where it has ever been at in the past. And of the many trailblazing brands that are now kind of leading this charge, I think one in the last 10 years that have certainly been responsible for this is Laurent Ferrier. And today we're going to be looking at one of their pieces with the Laurent Ferrier Galet Square Boréal. All right, guys, before we jump into this video looking at this Laurent Ferrier, talking about the world of independent watchmakers, more on an affordable end, or at least more attainable end, I think Nomos Glashütte certainly needs to be in the conversation. We are an authorized dealer of Nomos on our store, and as you guys are probably familiar with, I'm a huge fan of the brand. Great entry-level German watchmaking, spanning just different varieties of in-house calibers. You can also look at their more entry-level options like their Club Campus series, starting around that $1,600 range in terms of price. You can also look at some of their more unique models like their Minimatic, as well as their Metro Date Power Reserve with that very distinctive power reserve indicator and a beautiful in-house movement on the flip side. But TeddyBaldassarre.com, full authorized dealer of Nomos watches. Check it out, links in the description. Now, in terms of watch brands in the high watchmaking scene, age seems to be a big deal, and many watch brands are centuries old. However, in the recent era of rising independence, exciting brands will pop up and really grab a hold of the hearts and minds of enthusiasts. And Laurent Ferrier is perhaps one of the best examples of that, having been founded only 11 short years ago after its namesake founder wrapped up a 40-year career over at another brand you might be familiar with, Patek Philippe. Being known for a collection that balances modern and classic design elements and some of the finest handmade watches in the industry, Laurent Ferrier has carved out an impressive niche in the high watchmaking sector. And given their production numbers of approximately 150 pieces being made each year, it is safe to say that this is not going to be a brand that is going to be on everyone's wish list, but certainly a brand that can be appreciated among the select few that are lucky enough to be able to afford one of their pieces, or for those that are just admiring the world-class craftsmanship on full display, especially when you flip this unassuming piece around. Now, to begin here, let's look at this watch with the specifications. Case size is going to be a 41mm case, thickness 11.1mm, lug to lug of 47.3mm, lug width of 20mm. Movement is an automatic LF22901. Water resistance 30 meters, and crystal is sapphire. And this watch comes in with a price of $34,499. And this watch is from Del Rey Watch. So Federico Talks Watches, John P., you may have seen their videos on YouTube. They own Del Rey Watch. We're nice enough to send this very expensive watch to us to shoot. So if you are interested in this piece, link in the description to purchase this watch, and definitely check them out. They have a lot of other pre-owned offering and have some pretty interesting things always in stock. So I'll leave a link in the description, and thanks for them for sending this watch in. Now, to begin here, let's look at the case here and the wearability. Now, I think it's worth mentioning this so-called square is more of a cushion case design than a true square watch given its heavily rounded corners. At 41mm in diameter and short lugs that wrap to the case in a turn style, wearing this watch likely won't be an issue for really any wrist size out there, but the presence of 41mm in width, which is further stretched out to around 45mm when you include that crown, might be a little bit on the larger side for some depending on what you're used to. This diameter across isn't felt entirely in the wear, but it does create a more distinctive wear on the wrist. With those dimensions still, the watch manages to wear closer to that of a 40mm case, but is very traditional 20th century in its design. The more traditionally shaped 40mm classic micro rotor smoothly rounded case is inspired by the idea of holding a smooth pebble in one's hand, and while this square version has quite a bit more heft and presence, it's still incredibly comfortable on the wrist. Ferrier is guiding us to think of it as a squared off pebble, which is roughly what Galet Square means in French. At just over 11mm, this is also a slim watch on the wrist and feels even slimmer given more of the sloped off case profile. And this area of thickness is certainly aided by the micro rotor within the movement, which we will certainly talk about. As you'd imagine for a watch in this range, the strap is also excellent and features a traditional pin buckle, although LF also produces a beautiful deployant style buckle as a substitute. Overall, the watch is a joy to wear, but unquestionably is going to wear on the wrist a bit different than the conventional case designs. Though polished pretty much everywhere, there is still a fair amount of case stepping visible in this piece, especially in the beautifully shaped lugs, which have to be viewed from the side to really appreciate them. The type of the case finishing is pretty much what Laurent Ferrier does, a sort of organic, extremely smooth, and visually pleasing approach. The non-screw down crown is also polished, onion shaped, and is nestled neatly into the case, offering easy engagement. Also of interest is that this case is stainless steel as opposed to gold, platinum, or white gold, which are all materials used extensively by LF and exclusively in the round Galet Classic micro rotor, a fact which gives this square version a bit more of a sporty feel overall. In fact, the square collection, originally released in 2015, represented LF's first steel watch design and a small step forward in the sporty direction they've since traveled in with models like their newer Grand Sport collection. And one area that this one is going to be held back in the area of being classified as a sports watch especially is in the water resistance. So 30 meters here, so real water activities you're definitely not going to be wanting to push to the limit, but all things considered, if you are considering a Laurent Ferrier watch, this one probably does lean a bit more sporty than some of their others. Now, very few brands can say that they have their own exclusive design identity. And I would say each area of Laurent Ferrier's watches stands out on their own and really following this mold. Now, this Galet square dial is a great example, screaming Laurent Ferrier from a distance, this time with a sportier feel, ode to the loom sector like dial design, which also acts as hour markers and leaves room for a small second register in the 6 o'clock position. The hands are worthy of note as well, being made of 18 karat gold and here executed in their very own shape. Again, Superluminova is used within this handset, and the combination of this inclusion and loomed ring on the dial means that this watch really is going to light up. Very interestingly though, many of the dial elements, including the brand signature, the minute track, and the printing on the small second subdial, are executed in black on a black background, which makes for a very different feel compared to many high horology watches where brands can't say or print their names in enough places on their pieces. Legibility though certainly is called into question, but if there is an example of epitomizing the idea of stealth wealth, this is probably it. Yet this case of stealth is short-lived if you do decide to flip this one over, where the real star of the show is present with the LF 22901 automatic micro rotor movement on full display. Now, it is fitting to speak first about the substantial level of finishing taking place on this piece. Leading the way in allowing this movement to be on full display is perhaps where the eyes will first lead. The offset micro rotor fixated by a bridge that deviates from the traditional ball bearing system, coming in gold with a guilloche finish set on top of perlage finish underneath. Now, this micro rotor is unidirectional while being maximized for winding efficiency in order to obtain its 72-hour power reserve. In turn, this offers the freedom of an automatic watch without obstructing the view of the rest of the movement, which in this instance is a bigger deal than most. The bridges are executed in a black polish and feature a mirroring anglage and Côte de Genève finish, which unlike the understated dial, should be quick to catch the eye when examining close underneath the light. Adding to the specifications of the movement, it also is housing 35 jewels and is tested internally at 6 positions, outdoing the traditional 5 positions of cost. Located at the bottom corner of the case back, we are greeted with a free-sprung balance, beating away with the help from the restructured escapement, where Laurent Ferrier opted to go for an inspired take on Abraham Louis Breguet's natural escapement instead of the traditional lever system, an escapement system that was not viable given manufacturing limitations at the time of its creation centuries ago. Now, this natural escapement system uses a double direct impulse from dual escapement wheels made of nickel phosphorus that uses a silicon detent or lever in order to maximize energy distribution and will offer less sliding friction than a traditional pallet system. And with this appeal of Breguet, it's only fitting that this one also has an overcoiled hairspring with the movement beating away at 21,600 vibrations per hour, 3 hertz, features hand winding but no hacking in this movement, and has a power reserve of 72 hours. Now, one of the things I'm attracted to when it comes to watches and just the world of watchmaking is when you could look at a timepiece and maybe not fully appreciate it at first inspection and then gradually just dig a little bit deeper and just find this other world about it. Maybe there's a story attached to it, or there's just absolute art and craftsmanship embedded within the timepiece. And that's probably the best way to classify Laurent Ferrier. Independent watchmaking as a whole is not meant to be for everybody. And I think that goes without being said when you look at the price tag of this piece. But I think that idea where you're not appealing to maybe the status or the wealth element, especially with this timepiece where very unassuming on the front of the watch, but when you flip this thing over, you're just greeted with this whole other world and just a window into master craft. And with only 150 pieces being produced by Laurent Ferrier a year, this is as exclusive as it gets. But even if you are not a part of that select few that can perhaps buy one of these timepieces, I think there's still a lot to appreciate here, as this is certainly one of the best independent watchmakers out there in the world. All right guys, but if you didn't like this video, thumbs up, subscribe, hit the bell icon, really would appreciate that. That does help out the channel. Also leave a comment down below. Do you like this coverage of independent brands? I know these are the videos that probably don't have the same appeal as some other watches to be featured on the channel, but I really do enjoy covering just different watches and being a bit unique and different. So if you are into this, thumbs up again, and then also leave a comment down below. What other brands would you like to see covered in the future? Also, if you are interested in this timepiece, we'll have links to where to purchase it. Delray Watch, thanks to them again for sending this piece. And then also TeddyBaldassarre.com. Definitely check out those Nomos watches mentioned at the beginning. Have over 30 brands on our site as a full authorized dealer. So definitely go check that out. Great way to support the content as well. 9 out of every $10 that we generate goes right back into the content that we're creating. Also check out our Instagram as well as our review show, where we're posting an additional 3 to 7 videos a week. So if you love watch content, want to see some cool watches covered, definitely subscribe there as well. But guys, thank you again so much for watching. Be well, and I will see you all very soon.